You've served the chapter for 30 years. You've cleaned their armor, maintained their weapons, prepared their meals. You've never spoken to a space marine. You never will. You'll die in service. Some would call this tragedy. You call it redemption. Your hands know the weight of a power sword better than most warriors know their own blades, yet you'll never swing one in battle. You've polished ceramite plates that have turned aside demon claws, scrubbed blood from between the joints of articulated finger segments, applied sacred oils to weapons that have ended worlds. The Space Marines of your chapter don't know your name. They don't know your face. You are invisible to them, and that's exactly as it should be. You tried once to stand among them as a brother. You failed. The implants rejected you. Your body broke where theirs transcended. But the chapter offered you another path, and you took it, and you've walked it for 3 decades without complaint or regret. You serve the Emperor's angels. You are not one of them. You never will be. And somewhere in the years between that failure and this morning, you made peace with it. The day begins in darkness, as it always does. The chrono reads 4 hours past midnight when your eyes open. No alarm needed. Your body knows. 30 years of this routine has written itself into your bones, into the rhythm of your heart. You swing your legs off the cot, and your knees protest. They always do now. You're 47 years old, in the decades of kneeling on stone floors, climbing maintenance scaffolds, carrying equipment built for larger hands than yours. It's all catching up. You press your thumb against your left knee and feel the fluid swollen joint, warm and tender. Another 10 years of this, maybe 15 if you're lucky and careful. Then you'll join the hunched ancients in the lighter duties, sweeping corridors, folding vestments, until one morning your heart simply stops, and they carry you to the Serf cemetery, where the markers bear numbers instead of names. It doesn't frighten you. It's the natural order of things. You begin your prayers. Your quarters are small, barely larger than a servitor's charging alcove, but there's room for what matters. The shrine sits in the corner, 3 candles arranged before a wooden aquila your hands carved 20 years ago. The wood is dark with age and the oil from your fingers. You light the candles with a friction striker, and the small flames push back the darkness just enough. You kneel and your knees burn, and you ignore it because pain is temporary, but devotion is eternal. Emperor of mankind, master of Terra, you who sits upon the golden throne. The words are rote, worn smooth by repetition, but you mean them. Every word. I am your servant, not in glory but in service. Not in battle, but in preparation for battle. Make my hand steady, make my eye keen, let no detail escape me, let no failure of mine endanger your angels. You press your forehead to the cold stone floor. It smells like dust and old incense, like every prayer cell in every imperial structure across the galaxy. The scent is comforting. Universal, you are part of something vast. When you rise, your knees crack audibly, and you allow yourself a grimace because there's no one to see it. You pull on your uniform, the same gray coveralls you've worn since you were 17, replaced periodically but always identical. The chapter's symbol sits over your heart, embroidered in black thread, a mailed fist clutching a bolt shell. The fists of retribution, your chapter, your life, your purpose. The fabric is worn soft and thin in places, stained with oils and sacred unguents that no amount of washing can remove. You take pride in those stains. Each one represents something maintained, something kept functional. You are 47 years old, and your body hurts, and you will die in service to this chapter. You tried to be a space marine once. The scars on your chest prove it. The corridors are vast and empty at this hour. Your footsteps echo against stone that was laid down 3,000 years ago, when the chapter first claimed this world. Each block weighs several tons, carved with prayers in High Gothic so old the language has shifted, and the words no longer quite mean what they once did. But they're still prayers, still holy. You've walked these passages for 30 years, first as a boy brought here for the trials, then as a broken aspirant given a second chance, now as a veteran serf whose hands know every maintenance routine by memory. The ceiling vaults upward into shadow where even the dim lumens can't reach. Statues of chapter heroes line the walls, their stone faces severe and judgmental. You know each one. Brother Captain Malkaev, who held the Hive Primus gates against a chaos incursion for 18 hours alone. Chaplain Mordrak, who burned the heretic cult on Ossian Prime and cleansed 7 worlds of the taint. They're all dead now. Their gene seed recovered and implanted into new brothers, their names and deeds carved in stone. You wonder sometimes if they remember you. When they were alive, when they walked these halls, you maintained their armor too. They never looked at you either. Ahead you pass another serf. Brother Thomas, you recognize him by his slight limp, a training injury from when he was an aspirant 32 years ago. He failed the same trial you did. Different reason. His second heart never developed properly. The apothecaries could see it on the auger displays, a malformed muscle that would never handle the strain of transformation. He nods to you as you pass, you nod back. No words, there's nothing to say that hasn't been said over 3 decades of parallel service. You both know the truth, you're the lucky ones. Most aspirants who fail die in the trials. The chapter doesn't waste resources keeping weaklings alive. But when someone survives to the implantation stage, and only then fails, when the gene seed rejects them, when their body can't handle the transformation, then sometimes the chapter offers an alternative. Serve or die, simple choice. Not really a choice at all. Every serf in this monastery is either a failed aspirant or the child of one. The hereditary servants who clean and cook and maintain, they're descended from boys who couldn't become angels but could still serve them. This is your bloodline now, your legacy. If you take a wife from among the serf population, and some do, your children will sweep these floors and polish this armor. They'll pray to the emperor and serve the chapter and never ever speak to a space marine. It's not a bad life. It's not the life you wanted, but it's the life you have. The Armory Annex is your destination this morning. The assignment slate on the wall outside your quarters was updated overnight. Serf Attendant Callus, Power Armor Maintenance, Marxus 7, 3rd Company, Brother Kael, Bay 17, Report 0430. You've never met Brother Kael. You don't know what he looks like beneath his helmet, whether he's a veteran of centuries or a newly elevated battle brother, fresh from the scout companies. It doesn't matter. His armor matters. You enter the maintenance bay, and the air changes immediately. It's warmer here, the great furnaces below, keeping the chambers at a temperature optimal for metalwork and machine maintenance. The smell hits you. Sacred unguents, a mix of blessed oils that carry hints of frankincense and myrrh, and something chemical, preservative. Ozone from power feeds, the faint metallic tang of ceramite, old incense from the censers that burn continuously in the corner shrines. This is the smell of your life. This is home. Brother Kael's armor stands on its maintenance frame, and you stop in the doorway to appreciate it properly. Mark 7, Power Armor, the pattern you know best, the reliable workhorse of the Adeptus Astartes, painted in your chapter's colors, deep crimson with black trim, the mailed fist symbol on the left shoulder pauldron, the 3rd Company's tactical designation on the right, battle damage is visible even from here, scoring on the left greave from what looks like loss fire. A dent in the right vambrace. The helmet's left eye lens is cracked, a spiderweb pattern that will need full replacement. This armor has seen combat recently. You approach it the way you might approach an altar, with reverence and care. You're not just maintaining equipment, you're tending to a sacred object that houses an angel of the emperor. You begin with the rites. This is not optional. The machine spirit inhabits this armor, ancient and temperamental, and it must be approached with proper respect. You light the incense in the small shrine built into the wall of every maintenance bay, 3 sticks of sacred incense blessed by the chapter's chaplains. The smoke rises, thick and cloying, and you breathe it in. Omnissiah, guide my hands. Machine spirit of this holy armor, grant me your favor. Emperor of mankind, bless this work. You open the case containing the sanctified oils, 7 different formulations, each for a specific purpose. The seals on each vial are marked with purity stamps from the forge world that supplies your chapter. You select the appropriate oils for each stage of maintenance. This is ritual as much as engineering, and you've performed it thousands of times. You begin with the boots, because that's where you always begin, and because proper ritual demands starting from the foundation and working upward. You kneel on the cold ferrocrete floor, and your knees burn, and you ignore it. Your left hand steadies the armored boot, while your right inspects every joint, every seal, every articulation point. Your fingers are calloused and scarred from 30 years of this work, numb in places from old cuts and burns, but they're sensitive enough to feel the microscopic irregularities in the ceramite. There's a scuff on the left boot where something scraped against it. Enemy fire maybe, or debris, or simply the accumulated wear of movement across harsh terrain. You take a small polishing cloth, apply 3 drops of the first oil, and work the mark away. Your movements are slow and meditative, circular motions, pressure applied evenly. The ceramite is cold and impossibly hard under your touch. You know the metallurgy in theory. Ceramite is a composite material, layered in ways that resist heat and impact and energy weapons. It's forged in processes that take months, blessed at each stage, infused with prayers and sacred geometry. Each plate is a work of art and science combined. You're just a serf with a polishing cloth, but you treat it like the holy object it is. The machine spirit approves. You can feel it. Not in any literal sense. You're not a psyker, not touched by the warp, but in the way a craftsman can sense when his work is going well. The armor seems to settle slightly on its frame. The faint humming from its power cells, dormant but never truly off, sounds content. You check the magnetic seals in the sole, testing each one with a small ferrous probe. They lock cleanly, releasing with a sharp click. Good. These seals allow Space Marines to maglock to starship hulls during boarding actions, to walk across metal surfaces in zero gravity, to anchor themselves during firing of heavy weapons. If these seals fail, a brother could be lost to the void. You make a notation on your data slate. Magnetic seals, left boot, optimal function, right boot, optimal function. You work your way up the legs, checking hydraulics with pressure gauges so old they're probably older than you. The readings are good. You verify each fiber bundle connection, the synthetic muscles that amplify the wearer's movements and allow them to walk, despite armor that weighs several hundred kilograms. Each bundle is checked for wear, for stress fractures, for the subtle signs of impending failure. You find a slight abrasion on one cable near the left knee joint. Not critical yet, but it will be. You make a note, replace cable K73, next maintenance cycle. You anoint each joint with the appropriate oils, speaking the proper litanies as you work. Blessed be this joint. May it move without binding. May it turn without breaking. May it serve the Emperor's angel who bears it into battle. The words are rote, formulas you learned as a boy, but you mean them. The chest plate demands the most attention. You stand on a stepladder to reach it properly, your face level with the imperial aquila emblazoned across the breastplate, and you feel small, insignificant, appropriate. This is where the armor's fusion power plant is housed, where the backpack will connect with its additional reactor, where all the vital systems converge. You open access panels with tools worn smooth from decades of use, revealing the intricate workings beneath. Cables thick as your fingers carry power throughout the system. Cooling pipes circulate fluids that keep the reactor from overheating. Diagnostic runes glow faintly in high Gothic script, showing system statuses. Everything is green, everything is optimal, but you check anyway. Trust is earned through verification. You test each power coupling with a multimeter. You inspect each cooling pipe for stress cracks. You verify that the fluid levels are correct, that the seals are intact, that the backup systems will engage if the primaries fail. A Space Marine's life depends on this armor functioning perfectly in the worst possible conditions. They fight in void, in fire, in toxic atmospheres, and underwater, and in the heart of plasma storms. This armor keeps them alive, and your maintenance keeps this armor functioning. It's not glorious work. But if you make a mistake, a brother dies. That's glory enough. The backpack reactor mounts are next, and you examine each attachment point with care. The backpack houses the main fusion plant, and if it detaches during combat, the armor becomes dead weight. You check torque settings on each bolt. You verify the electromagnetic locks. You test the emergency release mechanism that allows a Space Marine to jettison the pack if it's damaged and about to explode. Everything works. Everything is perfect, because you won't accept less. You move to the helmet, removing it from its stand with both hands. It's heavy, far heavier than any helmet a normal human would wear, and you cradle it like you might cradle something precious. The eye lenses are dark now, but you know they'll glow with pale green light when powered. The left lens is cracked, you saw that earlier, and you examine it closely. The damage is superficial, not structural, but it needs replacement. Vision in combat is everything. You make a note for the Tech Marines: helmet, left ocular lens, cracked, replacement required, priority medium. You clean the lenses with a solution that won't streak or fog, then polish the faceplate until it gleams. The Vox grill below the lenses is intact, but you check it anyway, verifying that the mesh isn't clogged with debris or blood. There's a small dent near the jaw from what must have been a glancing blow. You can't repair that, not with your tools and authority, but you note it. The Tech Marines will handle it. As you work, you catch your reflection in the curved ceramite of the faceplate, distorted and small. You're 47 years old, and your face shows it. Lines around your eyes from squinting at fine details. Gray threading through your hair. A scar above your right eyebrow from an accident with a maintenance crane 15 years ago. You look old, tired, human. And the armor looks eternal, unchanging, perfect. That's the difference between you and them. They transcend. You maintain. By the time you finish, 3.5 hours have passed. Your back aches from bending and reaching. Your knees are sore from kneeling on ferrocrete. Your hands smell like sacred oils, a scent that will linger for hours no matter how much you wash. But the armor is perfect. You step back to admire your work. this towering suit of ceramite and plasteel that will protect a demigod in battle. You've never worn power armor. You never will. Your body rejected it. The gene seed didn't take. But you know this armor better than the Space Marine who wears it. You know every joint, every seal, every cable, every weakness. You maintain it. You keep it functional. And in doing so, you serve the Emperor as surely as any battle brother. You make a final notation on your data slate. Power armor, marks a 7. Brother KL, 3rd Company, maintenance cycle complete, armor certified for combat operations, Serf Attendant Callus. You press your thumb to the data slate's authentication pad, leaving your biometric mark, your signature that says this work meets standards. If Brother Kale dies because of equipment failure, they'll trace it back to you. They'll execute you probably. It's only right. But he won't die because of equipment failure. Not today, not because of your work. You gather your tools, clean each one properly, and return them to their designated places in the maintenance bay's tool locker. Everything has a place. Everything has a purpose. You are part of a system that has functioned for 10,000 years, and you will not be the weak link. You extinguish the incense in the shrine, speak a final prayer of thanks to the machine spirit for its cooperation, and leave the bay. The armor stands behind you, silent and waiting for its wearer, perfect, ready. You move on to your next task. The serf's refectory is a large, austere hall with long wooden tables and benches worn smooth by generations of use. Hundreds of serfs serve this fortress monastery, and many of them are here now, eating in relative silence. The clatter of spoons against metal bowls echoes against stone walls. Someone coughs. Someone else murmurs a prayer. The smell is institutional. Boiled grain, protein paste, weak recaf that barely deserves the name. The food is nutritious but flavorless, calculated to provide exactly what a baseline human body needs to function optimally. Nothing more. The chapter doesn't waste resources on luxuries like taste. You take your portion from the serving line and sit where you always sit, at the end of a table, near the wall. You prefer to watch. There are younger serfs at the far tables, children and adolescents, some still in training for their duties. They have the wide-eyed look of the recently arrived, still awed by the fortress monastery, by the space marines they've glimpsed in corridors. Give them time. The awe becomes familiar. The wonder calcifies into routine. There are serfs your age scattered throughout the hall, men and women in their 40s and 50s, veterans of decades of service. They eat mechanically, efficiently, conversations minimal, work awaits, and there are the old ones, the survivors, bent and worn by lifetimes of labor. They're in their 60s, even 70s, ancient by serf standards. They sit together, sharing the companionship of those who've outlived their usefulness but haven't yet been granted the mercy of death. You'll be there soon enough. You eat quickly, the food turning to paste in your mouth. The protein has a slightly chemical taste, preserved and reconstituted. The grain is lumpy, the recaf is weak and bitter. You've eaten this meal, or variations of it, for 30 years. You barely taste it anymore. As you eat, your eyes fall on a boy, perhaps 13, sitting with a group of other young serfs. He's laughing at something, his face bright, animated. There's a scar on his chest, visible where his coverall has come unfastened at the collar. A surgical scar, you know what it means. He's a failed aspirant, recent by the look of it. The wound is still pink, still healing. The boy catches you looking, and his laughter dies. His hand moves unconsciously to cover the scar, shame crossing his face. You look away. Give him time. He'll learn to carry it. You all do. The scar on your own chest is 30 years old, a thin line running from sternum to navel, where they opened you to remove the implants that were killing you. You don't think about it much anymore. But sometimes, watching boys like this one, you remember. You finish your meal and return your bowl to the washing station. The young serf with the fresh scar is still sitting with his group, quieter now. You want to tell him it gets easier, that the shame fades, that there's dignity in service even when it's not the service you wanted. But you don't. He'll figure it out himself, or he won't. Some failed aspirants never adjust. Some take their own lives in the first year. The chapter doesn't stop them. Free will is sacred, even the will to die. You have afternoon duties in the Librarius Lexicographic, the section of the chapter's archives dedicated to maintenance logs and equipment records. It's not the grand archives where the chapter's battle honors are kept, where illuminated manuscripts record millennia of glory. This is the mundane data, the endless documentation that keeps a Space Marine chapter functioning. Supply manifests, maintenance schedules, ammunition expenditure reports, equipment repair logs. Someone has to maintain these records, and that someone is serfs like you. The lexicographic is a vast chamber, rows of data stacks and filing cabinets stretching into shadow. The air is dry here, humidity controlled to preserve the records. The smell is paper and dust and ozone from the data terminals. A few other serfs work at stations throughout the chamber, their heads bent over their tasks. You nod to senior archivist Vorn, an elderly serf who's maintained these records for 50 years. He nods back, a gesture of mutual respect between veterans. You take your assigned station and begin your work. Today's task is updating the armor maintenance logs for 3rd Company. Every piece of power armor in the chapter has a history, a record of every repair, every replacement part, every maintenance cycle. You enter your notation from this morning's work on Brother Kale's armor. You're precise, detailed, noting everything significant. These records save lives. If a pattern emerges, if a particular component fails repeatedly, the Tech Marines can investigate and address it before it becomes catastrophic. The work is meditative. Your fingers move across the data slate, entering information, cross-referencing serial numbers, updating status indicators. Around you, the lexicographic is quiet except for the soft sounds of other serfs working, the scratching of styluses, the clicking of keys. Someone coughs, time passes, you're deep into the records, comparing current maintenance notes against historical patterns when you feel it. That presence, the air changes, becomes heavier, charged with something you don't have words for. Your hands stop moving, your breath catches. A Space Marine has entered the chamber. You don't look up immediately. You save your work first, carefully, methodically, because discipline matters, even when fear is crawling up your spine. Then you turn slowly and see him in the doorway. Brother Codicier Matthias of the Librarius. His armor is blue, the traditional color of the Librarium, edged in silver and covered in protective wards and purity seals. The psychic hood rises from his shoulders, a framework of neural amplifiers that extends behind his head like a halo. His helmet is off, held in the crook of his arm, and you can see his face. He's younger than you expected, perhaps only a century or so of service, which makes him practically an initiate by librarian standards. His eyes are wrong. They glow faintly, a soft blue light emanating from within, the mark of psychic power barely contained. Looking at him makes your head hurt, a dull ache behind your eyes that has nothing to do with vision and everything to do with his presence in the warp pressing against your mundane, baseline consciousness. You immediately stand and press yourself against the wall, making yourself small, unobtrusive. This is protocol. When a Space Marine enters your space, you become furniture. The other serfs in the chamber have done the same, melting into the shadows, becoming invisible. Brother Codicier Matthias moves deeper into the chamber, his footsteps heavy despite the fluid grace of his movement. Each footfall sounds like a drumbeat, power armor amplifying his weight. He's enormous, over 7 feet tall in armor, massively broad through the shoulders and chest. He moves to one of the primary data terminals and begins searching for something, his gauntleted hands moving across the interface with surprising delicacy. You remain perfectly still, barely breathing. The psychic presence is overwhelming, like standing near a furnace and feeling heat radiate from it. You can feel his mind, not thoughts exactly, you're not psyker enough for that, but the weight of it, the power barely leashed. It's terrifying. It's awe-inspiring. This is what you tried to become. This is what your body rejected. He's magnificent and terrible, and you're a shadow on the wall, beneath his notice, beneath his concern. He finds what he's looking for after perhaps 2 minutes of searching. He downloads something to a data slate attached to his armor, his movements efficient and practiced. Then he pauses. He turns his head slightly, and for a horrible moment, you think he's looking at you. His glowing eyes sweep across the wall where you're standing, and you feel the brush of his attention, like physical touch. Your heart hammers, your mouth is dry. He's looking through you, you realize, not at you, through you. You don't exist to him as a person. You're part of the architecture, a piece of equipment, less important than the data terminal he just used. Then he leaves, the chamber suddenly feeling larger and easier to breathe in with his absence. You release a breath you didn't know you were holding and your hands are shaking. You look down at them, at the tremor in your fingers, and you feel something complex and hard to name. Awe, fear, relief, and underneath it all, a ghost of something that might be envy or grief or simply acceptance. You'll never be that. You'll never be anything close to that. Your body broke where his transcended. He's a warrior psyker, a weapon of unimaginable power, capable of tearing apart reality with his mind. You're a serf with shaking hands and aching knees who maintains filing systems. The distance between you is infinite, but you maintain the filing systems that let him find the information he needs. You maintain the armor that protects him. You maintain the weapons he uses to kill the Emperor's enemies. He's the weapon. You're the hand that keeps the weapon sharp. It's enough. It has to be enough. You return to your work, your hands steadying as you focus on the familiar task. Time passes. The lexicographic is quiet again. You enter data, cross-reference serial numbers, update maintenance logs. The work is meditative, necessary, invisible. Perfect. The afternoon shift ends at 1700 hours. You complete your data entry, cross-check your work 3 times because mistakes are unacceptable, and seal your terminal. Senior Archivist Vorn waves you over as you prepare to leave. He's 73 years old, ancient by Serf standards, bent nearly double from decades of hunching over records. His hands shake with palsy, and his eyes are milky with cataracts. But his mind is sharp, his memory encyclopedic. He's forgotten more about chapter logistics than you'll ever learn. You approach respectfully. Senior Archivist. He studies you for a moment, his clouded eyes somehow still seeing. You encountered the Codiciaire earlier, he says. It's not a question. You nod. Yes, Senior Archivist. He's quiet for a moment, then speaks softly. I've been maintaining these records for 50 years. In that time, I've seen perhaps 200 Space Marines pass through this chamber. Not one has ever acknowledged my presence. Not one has ever said a word to me. This is not cruelty. This is the natural order. We are serfs. They are angels. Do you understand? I understand, you say. Do you? He asks, and there's something in his voice, some weight of accumulated years and service and acceptance. Because I've watched young serfs break themselves, trying to be seen, trying to matter. You matter because you maintain the records. You matter because you do your duty with precision. That's all. That's enough. Yes, Senior Archivist, you say, and you mean it. He nods slowly. Good. He pauses, then adds more quietly, I was an aspirant once. The gene seed rejected me. Second heart failed during implantation. You, the black carapace, you say, cascade rejection. He makes a sound that might be sympathy or simple acknowledgement. We tried, he says. We failed. We serve anyway. The Emperor protects. The Emperor protects, you repeat. The ritual response. You leave the lexicographic with those words echoing in your mind. We tried. We failed. We serve anyway. It's the unofficial motto of every failed aspirant in this monastery. You have dinner duty tonight, not at the Serf refectory, at the Astartes feast hall. The third company has returned from campaign, victorious, and tonight they celebrate. This is rare duty, prestigious in its way, and you were selected by Serf Overseer Draken for your reliability and discretion. You report to the feast hall's preparation chambers at 1800 hours. A dozen other serfs are already there, selected for the same purpose. You recognize some of them. Brother Tomas, with his limp, Sister Marin, a serf attendant who maintains the chapter's vestments, young Petros, a recent failed aspirant who's been serf for less than a year and still carries shame like a weight on his shoulders. Serf Overseer Draken addresses the group. His voice is harsh, commanding, the voice of a man who once commanded squads of Imperial Guardsmen before an injury invalided him out, and he took service with the chapter. Tonight we serve the Astartes, he says. You are invisible. You anticipate needs before they arise. You refill cups before they empty. You clear plates without being noticed. You do not speak unless spoken to. You do not look directly at them unless required for your duties. You are there and not there simultaneously. This is the art of service. Do you understand? We understand. You respond in unison with the others. The feast hall is already prepared. The tables are enormous, built for warriors who mass several hundred kilograms in armor and stand over 7 feet tall unarmored. Place settings are scaled appropriately. Plates sized for hands that could crush your skull. Cups that hold liters of wine or water. Serving platters that would take 2 normal men to lift. You take your assigned position along the wall, waiting. Other serfs stand spaced evenly around the chamber's perimeter. From here, you're invisible. Part of the architecture, but positioned to move quickly when needed. The hall itself is magnificent. Vaulted ceilings rise 20 meters overhead, supported by columns carved to resemble ancient warriors. Battle banners hang from the rafters, cloth standards thousands of years old, preserved through sacred rituals, each one marking a campaign or victory. The walls are covered in murals depicting the chapter's greatest battles. Here, the defense of Hive Epsilon against the Orc Wa. There, the cleansing of the heretic shrine on Valeria. The artwork is ancient, maintained by specialist serfs whose only duty is preservation of the chapter's historical record. The Space Marines begin arriving at 1900 hours. The sound of their footsteps is like thunder, the rhythm of giants walking. They enter in squads, their armor painted in chapter colors, ceramite gleaming from recent cleaning, purity seals hanging like devotional ribbons. The feast is informal, by Astartes standards. They're not in full battle plate. Many wear training armor, or simply the black body gloves they wear beneath power armor. But even without ceramite, they're enormous, their muscles so enhanced that they barely seem human. You watch them from the corner of your eye, careful not to stare. These are the Third Company, returned from a campaign you know nothing about against an enemy whose name you haven't heard. They're victorious. That's all that matters. The details are above your clearance, beyond your need to know. They're warriors. Your support staff. They seat themselves at the tables, their conversations a low rumble of deep voices discussing tactics and battles. You catch fragments as you begin to circulate, carrying pitchers of wine, refilling cups. Well fought, Brother Sergeant. The left flank held better than expected. Next time we deploy faster. The enemy was weak. They always are when they face the Emperor's wrath. The language is matter-of-fact, professional. They discuss killing the way you discuss maintenance schedules. Efficiently, dispassionately. This is their craft. You refill a cup, and the Space Marine doesn't acknowledge you. You clear a plate, and the warrior continues his conversation as if you don't exist. This is proper. This is right. You're not here to be seen. You're here to enable their celebration, to make sure the evening flows smoothly so these warriors can have this moment of respite before they return to war. The chapter master enters last, and the hall rises. Even the seated Space Marines stand, though they were already standing when he appeared. He's ancient, Chapter Master Tyrus of the Fists of Retribution, over 4 centuries of service visible in the campaign markings that cover his armor. His face is weathered, scarred by 1,000 battles, his eyes like chips of granite. He walks with the absolute confidence of a man who's commanded warriors for longer than you've been alive. He takes his place at the head table, and the feast properly begins. You move through your duties like a ghost, refilling drinks, bringing food from the kitchens, clearing plates. The Space Marines don't see you. They look through you. At one point, you're refilling a cup at the head table when Chapter Master Tyrus reaches for it. His hand, even unarmored, is massive, calloused and scarred from centuries of war. It closes around the cup, and your fingers simultaneously. You pull away instantly, but you felt it, the strength there, the power barely contained. He could have crushed your hand without noticing. He doesn't react. He never noticed your fingers were there. You return to your position along the wall, and your hand is tingling from the contact, from brushing against something so far beyond your own existence. You look down at your fingers, they're trembling slightly. You make a fist, forcing them steady. Around you, the feast continues. The Space Marines eat prodigious amounts, their enhanced metabolisms demanding fuel. They drink wine that would intoxicate a normal human, their modified livers processing it before it can affect them. They laugh at jokes you don't understand, references to battles and enemies and situations you can't comprehend. And you serve. Invisible. Essential. You watch them honor their fallen, a moment of somber reflection where they raise cups and speak names in low voices. Brother Castus, Brother Victrix, Brother Theron. Each name is followed by a response from the assembled Space Marines. They walk with the Emperor now. You recognize one of the names, Brother Theron, the same brother apothecary who selected you 30 years ago, who oversaw your trials, who gave you the choice between death and service when your body rejected the gene seed. He's dead now, killed in whatever campaign the Third Company just completed. You feel something complex and hard to name. Grief, maybe, or simply acknowledgement. He was hundreds of years old. He served with distinction. He died in battle, which is the best death a Space Marine can hope for. And you're still here, 47 years old, knees aching, serving wine at a feast. Who served the Emperor better? The question is absurd. He did, obviously. He was a Space Marine, a warrior healer who saved lives and took them in equal measure. You're a serf with a data slate and a polishing cloth. But the question lingers anyway, beneath conscious thought, in the place where old wounds never quite heal. The feast lasts for hours. Your feet ache from standing. Your back hurts from carrying heavy serving platters. You're tired, bone-deep tired, but you don't complain. You don't even consider complaining. This is service. Eventually, the Space Marines begin to depart, returning to their duties or their rest. The hall slowly empties. You and the other serfs begin the long process of cleaning, scrubbing tables that weigh more than you do, washing plates sized for giant hands, putting away cups that could hold enough wine to intoxicate you for a week. It takes hours, and by the time you're finished, it's late into the night. You're exhausted, but there's satisfaction in the work. Everything is clean. Everything is ready for the next time. The chapter can continue its mission because you did your part. You're walking back to your quarters, bone-tired, looking forward to your cot, and maybe 5 hours of sleep before the next shift begins when the alarm sounds. It starts as a deep tone that resonates through the stone, felt more than heard, and your exhaustion evaporates instantly. Battle stations, enemy contact, deployment imminent. Every serf knows this sound. Every serf has drilled for this moment. You turn immediately and run, not toward your quarters but toward your emergency station. The corridors are suddenly alive with movement. Space Marines sprinting toward the armory and launch bays, their footsteps like thunder. Serfs running to their assigned positions. The fortress monastery transforming from a place of rest and routine into a weapon being brought to readiness. Your emergency station is in the Armory Complex, Section 7, Ammunition Preparation and Equipment Verification. You reach it in less than 3 minutes, your lungs burning, and find organized chaos. Serfs are pulling equipment from storage lockers, others are running system checks on weapons. The Serf Overseer is calling out assignments, directing the flow of bodies and materials with the precision of a logistics master. You fall into your routine without needing orders. Your station is bolt weapons, checking charge packs and ammunition feeds for bolt rifles and bolt pistols. The equipment comes in on conveyor belts from the storage vaults, and you work as fast as precision allows. Check the charge pack, verify the ammunition counter, test the feed mechanism, scan the weapon's serial number, clear for combat or flag for Tech Marine inspection. The work is meditative even in the rush. Your hands know what to do. A Space Marine approaches your station, his armor the crimson and black of the 3rd Company. He doesn't speak. He simply takes the bolt rifle you've just cleared, performs his own quick inspection, and moves on. Another Marine, another weapon, another inspection. Your hands move constantly. Check, verify, test, scan, clear. The conveyor brings more weapons, always more weapons. A bolt rifle jams during your test, the ammunition feed catching. This is why you test. This is exactly why. You flag it immediately, placing it on the rejection rack for Tech Marine repair. If this weapon made it into combat, it could mean a dead Space Marine. One weapon, one jam, one death. You prevented it. No one will ever know. That's the point. Another weapon arrives, and your hands freeze. The charge pack is swollen, visibly deformed. This is bad. Extremely bad. A manufacturing defect or damage during storage, and if this were to be loaded into a weapon and fired, it would explode. Not catastrophically. Bolt weapons are designed with safeguards, but enough to damage the weapon and possibly injure the wielder. A normal human, that's severe injury or death. A Space Marine in power armor, that's equipment damage and distraction in combat. Both unacceptable. You flag it immediately, but you don't stop there. This charge pack came from a specific storage batch. If one is defective, others might be as well. You pull the serial number and trace it back through the logistics system on your data slate. Batch 773 Alpha, Storage Vault 12, 50 charge packs in the batch. You've just cleared 3 weapons with charge packs from that same batch. Your stomach drops. Those 3 weapons are already gone, taken by Space Marines, possibly already loaded into Thunderhawks, preparing for launch. You grab the nearest Serf Overseer, Brother Harkin, a former failed aspirant who runs ammunition logistics. Emergency, you say, showing him the swollen charge pack and the batch data. He looks at it, and his face goes hard. Get to the launch bay, he says immediately. Find any weapon with a charge pack from batch 773 Alpha and pull it. Now, you run. The launch bays are on the upper levels of the Fortress Monastery, and you take stairs 3 at a time, your legs screaming. The alarm is still sounding. Time is critical. How long until launch? 5 minutes? 10? Not enough. You reach Launch Bay 3 and nearly collide with a Space Marine. He's enormous, in full power armor, moving toward a Thunderhawk gunship with a squad of brothers. You do something you've never done in 30 years of service. You speak to a Space Marine without being addressed first. Brother, you say, and your voice cracks with fear and adrenaline. Emergency, ammunition defect, charge pack batch 773 Alpha. He stops, turns to look at you. His helmet's eye lenses glow green in the dim bay lighting. For a moment, you think he'll kill you for the presumption of addressing him. Then he speaks. Which weapons? Bolt rifles. Check your squad's weapons immediately. He turns to his squad. Check your charge packs. Batch 773 Alpha. Remove immediately. The Space Marines respond instantly, ejecting charge packs, checking serial numbers. One of them finds it. A charge pack from the defective batch, slightly swollen, loaded into a bolt rifle that would have been carried into combat in approximately 7 minutes. The Space Marine holds it up. Defective, he confirms. He looks at you. You are? Surf Attendant Callus. Ammunition verification. He nods once. Well spotted. Check the other launch bays. He turns and walks away, his squad following, loading new charge packs from different batches. That's all. No thanks, no commendation. Just acknowledgement of duty performed. You run to the other launch bays. Bay 4, Bay 5. 2 more defective charge packs found and pulled. Each one a potential catastrophe averted. By the time you're finished, your lungs are on fire and your legs are shaking, but every weapon deployed is combat ready. The Thunderhawks launch, their engines roaring, and they carry Space Marines into battle with equipment you verified. You stand in the launch bay, watching the gunships disappear into the night sky, and you feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Purpose. Real, undeniable purpose. You potentially saved lives tonight. Maybe Space Marine lives. Maybe just equipment that would take months to replace. Either way, you served. You return to the armory to complete your shift. The deployment continues for hours, equipment being prepared, weapons being checked, supplies being loaded. You work until your hands are numb and your vision is blurry from exhaustion. Other serfs work beside you, all of you part of the same machine, the invisible support system that makes Space Marines possible. Finally, the deployment is complete. The Thunderhawks are launched. The Space Marines are gone, fighting somewhere for some cause you may never learn about. The Fortress Monastery is quieter now, emptier, waiting for their return. You're released from your station by Serf Overseer Harkin. He pulls you aside before you leave. The charge pack defect, he says. You caught it early. Potentially saved brothers' lives. Well done. Thank you, Overseer, you say. He studies you for a moment. You've been doing this how long? 30 years, you say. He nods. Shows. You have the instincts. Trust them. He walks away, and you're left standing there, exhausted and proud, and aware that you potentially saved lives through simple, invisible competence. This is what you are. This is what you do. You finally return to your quarters in the early morning, just a few hours before you'll need to wake and begin again. You're too tired to even remove your uniform. You collapse onto your cot and stare at the ceiling, at the stone that's been here for thousands of years and will be here for thousands more. You think about Brother Kale's armor, perfect and gleaming. You think about the Chapter Master's hand, massive and scarred. You think about Brother Librarian Voss, psychic presence, overwhelming. You think about the feast, the deployment, the endless cycle of service, and you understand, with clarity born from exhaustion, that this is your life. This is all your life will ever be. You'll never leave this fortress monastery. You'll never see the stars except through viewports. You'll never be thanked, never be recognized, never be remembered. When you die, and you will die here, no one will speak your name at feasts. No one will write of your deeds. You'll be buried in the serf cemetery, a small marker with a number, and another serf will take your place, and the work will continue. And somehow, impossibly, this brings you peace. You're part of something larger than yourself, larger than any individual human could be. The Space Marines couldn't function without serfs. The chapter couldn't exist without your labor. You're invisible, but you're essential. You're forgotten, but you're necessary. You close your eyes, and sleep takes you quickly. And tomorrow, you'll wake in the darkness and begin again, maintaining armor you'll never wear, serving warriors who'll never know your name, living a life of service and silence and strange, quiet pride. This is honor, you tell yourself, as consciousness fades. This is what honor looks like when you're not a hero. This is what duty looks like when no one's watching. You've served the chapter for 30 years. You've cleaned their armor, maintained their weapons, prepared their meals. You've never spoken to a Space Marine. You never will. You'll die in service. This is honor.